Hello, welcome to Cthulhu's World of Darkness. The sun's gone down, so it's time to talk about vampires. So today's going to be another video on my player's guide to disciplines. So the idea behind this is I'm going to talk about disciplines. We're going to talk a bit more about my experiences with it, the clans that have it, the powers that were in previous editions, and the powers as they are in V5. Because a lot of disciplines have got like more powers and more choices in V5 for players. For one, I also got my first ever drive-through RPG print-on-demand book, Cults of the Blood Gods, through a great book. I love what it's doing for V5. I'll go do a video reviewing about it. I don't want to spoil it too much, don't want to talk too much about it. I've also got another couple of books coming from drive-through RPG, and I'll do a video talking about the print-on-demand service, differences in quality, and show that stuff off, because I know myself as a player I was very reticent about buying print-on-demand books from drive-through RPG. I picked up quite a few PDFs, but I do really like a book. But anyway, let's get back to the podcast and let's talk about animalism. So what is animalism? So animalism, it's the ability to communicate and control animals. It's also the power to influence and control the beasts within as well. And it's a discipline I've never had much experience with. So there's some clans and some disciplines that resonate with you as a player. So sometimes I'll see some stuff in a discipline and say, actually, I really want to play a character who's a master of that discipline, and I'll build a clan and concept around that. Other times it might be a clan, and obviously they get the discipline spreads. But animalism's never really featured high on that. Certainly I have played Nosferatu before, but that was in Requiem. And in Requiem, Nosferatu don't have animalism. They have a power of nightmare, which is the cause of fear and terror in other people. I have played an Elder Zemitzi as well, but he was more interested in Auspex. It's been a few years since I played him, to be honest. But I do remember having lots of Auspex powers. And obviously vicissitude, because vicissitude is cool. Oh, you know, I thought it was really cool back then. Anyway, that's for the vicissitude. Stay on target, stay focused. Okay, so animalism. A recent example of animalism came up in a game I was running recently. Just after the player's companion had come out, so we're using messy criticals. Nosferatu character had a messy critical and triggered his clan compulsion, which for Nosferatu is find out some information. In our games, there's rumours of another Nosferatu kind of living in the sewers. So he starts acting a bit funny and kind of leaves the joint haven that they have in the coterie. So the gangrel player summons some ravens and says, follow that Nos. And the gangrel's got a messy critical as well. And for want of a better term, the gangrel compulsion basically turns you into a bit of a sulky teenager by the looks of it. But anyway, so Nosferatu goes down into the sewers, and this little rat scampers up expecting a conversation with them. Obviously, the Nos that lived in the sewers had well, it was rats, but animal agents being able to intercept people comes up, senses that it's akin to its master. So it kind of looks at the Nosferatu PC as if it wants a conversation, and the Nosferatu PC had no animalism. So he's like, oh, I don't know. So anyway, goes in, finds the marks and so. Later on, they'd kind of forgotten about the ravens following the PCs. They had to intercept an NPC who was getting away in a car. It was then that the coterie realised they didn't have any like celerity or any speed to catch up with them, or too far away from their own vehicles to drive. So the gang remembered, what about my flock of ravens? I was like, yeah, flock of ravens are still following the Nosferatu. So she was like, yes, ravens, we've got you, avian friends, follow that car. So they managed to uncover some clues as to the location of the NPC that they were pursuing. And it was really cool that that happened about the same time I was writing and planning this video. So anyway, cracking on. Which clans have animalism? The Nosferatu, which we've already talked about, the gangrel, which I've also talked about, the Ravnos, and the Zemitzi. Again, with normal proviso, clans and individuals use things differently. The Nosferatu and animalism. So Nosferatu benefits them in a couple of ways. first one is another way that they can sort of spy and send scouts out and get information back to them. Plausible deniability. The other thing that they have is in their sewers, in their warrens, they'll often have animal guardians. So rumours of alligators in their sewers and stuff. The albino alligators of New York, I think, if I remember, not Requiem, Redemption, the computer game. And they actually have spawning pools, so they'll put their blood in, they'll get animal ghouls to take from that blood. Those animals will mutate and get stronger, and obviously the ability to control them would be a boon if there's a giant albino alligator tearing down on you. The gangrel, in previous editions, the gangrel's flaw was linked to frenzy. The more you frenzied, the more animalistic traits you'd get. Now, the level 5 animalism power allows you to put your frenzy into somebody else. So for gangrel elders that's maybe already picked up some animalistic features and not wanting to devolve too much, that becomes really powerful. The Ravenos and the gangrel to some degree are nomads, so having animal spies able to see the land ahead or guard you during the day when you're asleep is useful as well. And there's a Mitzi. So there's a Mitzi being classic vampires from the sort of from Eastern Europe. Obviously have a big Bram Stoker's Dracula tie in there, and actually I watched that movie not so long ago, and obviously one of the most famous lines is "The children of the night, what sweet music they make." I won't try and do the accent. My accent's bad enough already, to be honest. And so the interaction with animals is really useful for them as well. But also, there's a Mitzi, they have control desires. So if we look at vicissitudes, they could control the flesh. Dominate, which is a V5 change for them, they could control the mind. And animalism allows them to control the beast, control the spirit, which I think is quite a nice control package. And when we're talking about Requiem, the Ventru have animalism, and again, that's part of they've got dominate, animalism, and presence, I believe. It's been a while since I played Requiem. Anyway, second edition rules. So, level 1 was called Sweet Whispers, later called Feral Whispers, which is a much better name. But anyway, this allowed you to speak to animals and have them do favours for you. That you could command them to go out and do something, like follow that car, for example, and come back and tell me. Different animals, when I've run it as a storyteller, different animals kind of have different quirks, and different ways of being, and getting the most out of the right animal for the right task has always been a key part of how I've used that with my players. Level 2, beckoning. You could summon a species of animals within the local area. So for example, you're going down into the sewers, you might want to know what's up ahead. Let's summon all the rats. They live in the sewers, they'll be able to then tell me what lies ahead. Level 3, this is when you start to control others' beasts. So it's Song of Serenity, also known as Quell the Beast. So you basically remove the beast from animals or mortals, rendering them compliant and docile. So this is a great power for Zamitzi, maybe before they start using vicissitude, especially if they don't want their victim screaming. Perhaps they do, they are Zamitzi after all. Actually, as well for the Nosferatu, because really powerful. Obviously, Nosferatu quite ugly, or perhaps a very bestial-looking gangrel. So what's able to do is render a victim docile and being able to be fed on, and then the kiss will take away memories and create that fugue to cover it. But that, for say an ugly Nosferatu, starts to become a really useful discipline. Level 4, sharing the spirit, basically allows you to possess an animal. If you can stay awake, you can even wander around during the day. Level 5, drawing out the beast, and this is a power where when you're on the point of frenzy, you're able to put your beast into something else. Great, as we said before, for gangrel, but also Ravnos with being tricksters. They'd be able to put their beast into the people, maybe in Elysium, and just see what happens and what political repercussions those characters need to deal with. Advanced powers would allow vampires to feed from animals, probe and bond animal minds, species speak, so rather than just communicating with one of the animals, if I've summoned 10 rats, I can speak to all the rats. And also more fingertip control over your frenzy, about either when you are going into frenzy, pulling yourself out of frenzy, also making others frenzy at a touch. So some quite interesting uses there, but still quite tight to the theme. Sometimes elder powers start to go off. So Auspex, for example, being a classic one, it's like C, boom, psychic assault. So as we segue from previous editions to V5, I get to mention a wee bit about VTES, Vampire Eternal's Struggle card game. So in Vampire Eternal's Struggle card game, animalism gave you a lot of intercept. So you've got to stop vampires coming and attacking your stash of resources. Often they're using stealth. So any intercept you've got can cancel that stealth. The other thing that animalism did was give you retainers, which did different things, maybe soak damage or give you extra attacks. And animalism itself sometimes give you a long range attacks in combat, as well as you summon, say, a flock of crows to a murderer crows, I think the card was called, to attack your enemy. Okay, V5. So in case you weren't aware, if this is your first time seeing one of these videos, V5 has a lot more choices for disciplines. At the moment, it only goes to level 5 disciplines, but often you've got a couple of choices or more at different levels. So then you've got some pick a path ways you can pick your disciplines and really start to specialise your character. So level 1, you have Bond Familius. So basically you blood bond an animal and so you're able to give it simple commands, it responds to you and loves you and does everything you'd expect a ghoul to do. The other level 1 power is Sense the Beast, which is you can determine hostility and whether the thing you're using it on has a beast itself, i.e. is a supernatural, like maybe it's like another vampire. And this is becoming a much loved power, much used power. Nosferatu, my other game, I'm running 2 games at the moment, both based in Philadelphia, separate timelines to each other, coterie of each. It's quite interesting seeing how 2 different coteries exist in the same city with often the same plots and how they deal with it and how their choices actually change what's happening in the city. But anyway, so this Nosferatu is using it quite a bit to find out SPCs, storyteller player characters in V5, I'll still call them NPCs, are vampires or not. So it's become quite a much loved and used power. Level 2, Feral Whispers. Now Feral Whispers now allows you to summon and talk to animals. So as before that was 2 separate powers, now it's combined into 1. There's only 1 level 2 power. Level 3, you've got a choice of 3 powers. First one's Animal Succulence. So you can gain sustenance from animals. So this was an elder power before, so it's quite a jump to come down to level 3. And if you consume your familiar that you created with the level 1, you gain much more resources back, and actually some powers connected to the animal. So if the animal's particularly dexterous, you might gain dexterity boosts, or was noted for its vision, you might get some vision boosts as well. Other level 3 powers, Quell the Beast, which also now has some effects on vampires, and Unliving Hive. So normally you can only use animalism on sort of vertebrate animals, whereas now you can use it on invertebrates. Level 4 only has 1 power, which is Subsume the Spirit, possess the animal, which we had before. And level 5 got a couple of powers, Drawing Out the Beast, as we discussed before, or Animal Dominion, which is you can command flocks and packs of animals and they'll die by the dozens or hundreds to save their master. So that's a classic, enemies attacking you, and I said earlier that murder crows, it's you commanding these swarms of beasts as you can either build up your resources to attack or flee. So yeah, V5, nothing's radically changed with the discipline. It still basically does what it did in previous editions, unlike some of the disciplines kind of meander a bit more. really interesting to see the elder powers, and a lot of elder powers are getting put into the lower level disciplines, and animal succulence, you know, that's quite a big jump down to level 3. You do have a big lot of powers at level 3 and only one choice at level 4 and level 2. Level 2 I think is quite, if you're going to have animalism, level 2, Feral Whispers, summon and talk to animals. For me that's animalism in a nutshell. That's a quintessential animalism power. So I'd definitely be taking that. Not too fussed about possessing animals, so that might be, if you fancy a couple of level 3 powers, that might be where you get your second level 3 power in. It's been a really interesting look at animalism, so especially looking at the powers that affect other people. Like Quell the Beast, especially, if I was playing a Nosferatu, that would be a power which would be high on my list of powers I'd want to get to. I could see myself in V5 having a Nosferatu. I had Sense the Beast, so that I could, with a look, scan for the vampires. My level 2 power, Feral Whispers, I've talked about, and Quell the Beast being really useful to help me feed. What I have liked about this when I've thought about the discipline is how the clans that have the discipline, it benefits them greatly. As I've talked lots about Nosferatu, to have a soft spot for Nosferatu, but actually the gangrel, you know, as nomads, the ability to have animals guarding you during the day is powerful, or birds scouting out. Same with the Ravnos as well. There's a lot of similarities actually in the Ravnos and the gangrel when it comes to their outlook on their disciplines and what they'd use them for. It's just Ravnos tends to be a bit more trickstery. So there we have it. That's my views and my take on animalism. I'll give a bit of an overview, talked about the clans, talked a bit about how it's been used. It's never going to be a discipline which I'm drawn to, even though I've liked more what I've seen of it. It doesn't grip me as a player, I must admit. But doing these videos, I've learned a lot about animalism that I didn't really consider in the past. Certainly my players that are developing animalism, I feel more equipped now to handle it as a storyteller. But anyway, that's my thoughts on animalism. What's your thoughts on animalism? As you know from these videos, I do like to chat in the chat rooms. What's this? The 1990s? The comment section underneath the videos. I've got coming up soon, I have probably going to be looking at celerity or presence. Might be my next video I do for this. But anyway, I've talked for far too long. I'm going to go now, and you have a great evening. And again, let us know your thoughts on my video today. Bye.